Hi everybody, welcome to this month's Myth of the Month. This month we're going to be looking at some of Aesop's fables. A fable is a short story typically featuring animals or other non-human characters that teaches a lesson or a moral. Aesop's fables are a collection of fables said to have been created by Aesop, who lived a long, long time ago in ancient Greece. Aesop may or may not have been a real person, but many fables have been credited to the name. Here are several fables and the morals they teach. Belling the Cat. A group of mice living in a house were constantly being terrorized by their enemy, the cat. One day, they decided enough was enough and called a meeting to figure out a plan to deal with the furry menace. If they couldn't get rid of her, they decided they at least needed a way to know she was coming so they would have time to run away. They thought and discussed, but no plan was quite good enough. Finally, one of the youngest mice stood up and said, "I've got it. It's simple and will solve all of our problems. We'll tie a bell around the cat's neck. That way, whenever we hear the bell ringing, we'll know she's close by." All of the mice cheered. Why hadn't they thought of such a simple, brilliant idea before? But then, one of the eldest mice stood up and said, "Yes, this is a very good plan, but I do have one question. Who will put the bell on the cat?" The moral of the story? Some things are much easier said than done. The Crow and the Pitcher. One dry, hot day, a thirsty crow spotted a pitcher. Peeking inside, she saw that there was water inside. However, the pitcher was tall and narrow at the top. She tried reaching inside, but she could not get to the water. The pitcher was also too heavy for her to tip over. She was so thirsty. Surely there was some way to get to the water. She looked down at the ground and suddenly had a brilliant idea. She picked up small pebbles one by one and dropped them into the pitcher. With each pebble, the water rose higher and higher bit by bit until, at last, it was close enough for her to have a drink. The moral of the story? Use your wits. Little by little gets the job done. The Fox and the Grapes. A fox was taking a stroll when he noticed a delicious-looking bunch of grapes hanging from a vine growing far up on a tree branch. The grapes looked plump and full of juice. The fox looked up at them, licking his lips. The fox reached up, but the grapes were too high above him. He jumped up, snapping at the grapes, but they were still too far up. He walked a short distance back and took a running jump at them, but once again, he could not reach the grapes. He tried again. He tried climbing the tree, but wasn't able to do that either. Tired and frustrated, the fox sat down under the tree and frowned at the grapes, muttering to himself, "Humph! What am I doing wasting my energy for a bunch of stupid grapes? They're probably sour anyway." And with that, he continued his walk with a scowl. The moral of the story? It's easy to hate what you cannot have. The Rooster and the Fox. One evening, a rooster flew high into the branches of a tree to settle in for the night. He let out one last crow and started to tuck his head under his wing when he caught a flash of red fur. At the bottom of the tree stood a fox. "Hey, did you hear the good news?" the fox called up to the rooster. "What good news?" asked the rooster, already suspicious. "Your family, my family, and every other animal in the world have agreed to set our differences aside and live together in peace, harmony, and friendship forever," the fox said. "Can you believe it?" "Oh, wow," said the rooster. "That really is good news." "Right? So," the fox continued, "why don't you come on down here, pal, so we can celebrate our new, bright future?" "That does sound like a good idea," the rooster responded, a little distractedly. He stood on his tiptoes, craning his neck, looking at something off in the distance. "What's the matter, Rooster?" asked the fox. "What do you see?" "Oh, hey! It looks like there are some dogs coming this way," the rooster said. "Wow, I guess they heard the good news and are coming to celebrate with us." The fox gulped and started running the opposite direction from where the rooster was looking. "Wait," the rooster said. "Where are you going? Our new friends are on the way. Oh, the fox stammered. They might not have heard the good news yet, and I just remembered I have something very important to take care of. As the fox ran off, the rooster smiled to himself and settled in to sleep. He had managed to outsmart a very clever enemy. The moral of the story? The trickster is easily tricked. The Two Goats. There once was a small village near a river. The only way to get to the other side of the river was over a small, narrow bridge. This bridge was so narrow that only one person at a time could cross it. One day, a goat started crossing the bridge, heading home after a long day on the other side of the river. As he took his first steps onto the bridge, he noticed another goat starting to cross from the opposite side. They would not both be able to cross at the same time. There wasn't enough room, and neither goat made any attempt to let the other go first. "You should let me cross first, since I'm older than you," said the first goat. "You're older, so that means you're slower," replied the second goat. "I'm stronger, so I should cross first." "I might be older, but I'm definitely stronger than you," the first goat shouted back. Both angrily started to cross the bridge. When they met in the middle, they nudged each other with their horns, starting a shoving match. It wasn't long, though, before both lost their balance and fell, being swept away by the river. Some time later, two different goats found themselves in a similar situation, both on opposite sides of the river starting to cross the bridge at the same time. "You should let me cross first," said one of the goats. "I have a better idea," said the other. "If we fight, we'll probably fall into the river. So, when we meet in the middle, I'll lie down and you can jump over me." The other goat agreed that this was a good plan, and they did just that, both goats making it safely to their destinations. The moral of the story? Stubbornness, pride, and anger can be your downfall. Wit and kindness win the day. Thank you for joining us for this month's Myth of the Month, and we will see you next time.